Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Yamani. Today I want to tell you a little bit about a virtual book club I'm running about guns and invite you to join us. I read a lot of books. Professionally, it's part of my job, but I've never really been part of a book club per se before. Now, of course, back in graduate school, we used to read things in common for seminars, and so that's a sort of book club, but that was a long time ago for me. And I've never really been part of one of these book clubs that meets to talk about a book in common just for the sake of talking about that book because they want to enjoy each other's company when discussing it. My sister was talking about a book club that she joined with a friend of hers in Ireland, and that sparked the idea that maybe I should take some of these books that I have to read professionally and do a book club, virtually inviting people to join me in reading the book and talking about it collectively. And I began this in the spring of 2024, and we actually had two sessions. The first session, we read this book, Gun Country, by the historian Andrew McKevitt, and the second book we read was What We've Become, Living and Dying in a Country of Arms, by the sociologist Jonathan Metzl. And these two book clubs went so well that the core group of people in the club decided to keep it going into the fall. And so we've decided to read, hopefully, two books this fall. And the first book we'll be reading is a bit different than the first two that we read. The first two that we read, honestly, were quite critical of guns and gun culture and gun violence. And the book that we've chosen to read for this fall is by a philosopher, Ryan Davis, and it's called Why It's Okay to Own a Gun. Why It's Okay to Own a Gun. So an argument that perhaps will be in line with my notion that guns are normal and normal people use guns. I haven't read the book yet, but we'll see. But the way that the book club is set up is that we have a core group of 11 panelists and myself that meet in a Zoom webinar. But the webinar is open to as many observers as want to come in and watch our discussion. You can't join in and sort of converse with the panelists live on video, but you can take advantage of the chat option. And I know in our two book clubs this spring, the chat was very active, running in parallel with our discussion. And I know that members of the panel often also engage people who are participating in the Zoom webinar in that way. So there will be a link in the show notes to this Light Over Heat video where you can register via Zoom for this first book club. We will be meeting on 3 Wednesdays at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Time beginning September 11th, and then meeting every other week going forward. On the third of 3 sessions, the author of the book, Ryan Davis, professor of philosophy at Brigham Young University, will join us for a conversation about the book in a question and answer session. So I've really enjoyed this kind of communal experience of reading books, learning from people on the panel. The panel's incredibly diverse. It includes gun bloggers, criminology professor, someone who works for Brady, gun owners across the political spectrum. And so it's a really interesting and diverse and thoughtful group of people. If you're interested in joining, again, look for the link to the information page and also a link for Zoom webinar registration. If you have any questions or thoughts about the book club, please share them. I'm always happy to hear from you.